Chapter 4. Speak to yourself like a leader. There is a voice inside your mind that never stops talking. It speaks when you wake up. It speaks when you fail. It speaks when you hesitate. It speaks when you plan. It speaks when you look in the mirror. It speaks when you face pressure. It speaks when nobody else is around. You hear that voice more than any other voice on earth, more than your parents, more than your friends, more than your critics, more than your mentors. And that voice is shaping your destiny, because the mind accepts what it hears repeatedly. The mind absorbs what it hears repeatedly. The mind begins to believe what it hears repeatedly. Your mind believes what it hears most often. Let that sentence land. Your mind believes what it hears most often. Not what you occasionally say, not what you say when you're motivated, not what you say when you're inspired, what you repeat. That is the mechanism. And most people are sabotaging themselves every day because the voice inside their head is not the voice of a leader. It is the voice of doubt, the voice of fear, the voice of hesitation, the voice of apology, the voice of small thinking, the voice of excuses. I'm not ready. I'm not that tight. I'll try later. What if I fail? What will people think? Maybe I should wait. That voice quietly erodes power, not all at once, slowly, like water wearing down stone, day by day, thought by thought, until hesitation becomes habit, until doubt becomes identity, until the person begins living below their capacity. Your mind believes what it hears most often. That is the psychological engine behind self-image, because self-image is not created by occasional inspiration. It is created by repeated instruction. And the most consistent instructor in your life is your own internal dialogue, which means if you want to build an unbreakable self-image, you must become the architect of that dialogue. You must train the voice. You must discipline the narrative. You must speak to yourself like a leader, not occasionally, constantly, because leadership begins internally, before anyone follows you, before anyone believes you, before anyone respects you. You must lead your own mind. Your mind believes what it hears most often. Let's begin with a simple truth. The mind does not distinguish between outside voices and inside voices. A sentence spoken internally has the same psychological impact as a sentence spoken externally, which means every thought you repeat is shaping your identity. If the voice inside you repeats weakness, your mind begins to organize behavior around weakness. If the voice inside you repeats discipline, your mind begins to organize behavior around discipline. If the voice inside you repeats possibility, your mind begins to search for possibility. This is why internal language matters. Your internal language is not just commentary. It is instruction. Your mind believes what it hears most often. Imagine a coach standing behind an athlete during training. If that coach constantly says, "You're too slow. You'll never beat them. You're not built for this. You're not strong enough. You always fail under pressure," what happens? The athlete's body begins to respond to those commands. Confidence collapses. Effort weakens. Performance drops. Now imagine a different coach. You can push harder. You are improving. You finish what you start. You are stronger than yesterday. You handle pressure. The athlete's nervous system shifts. The body responds differently. Energy changes. Effort intensifies. Performance rises. Your internal voice is your coach. Your internal voice is your trainer. Your internal voice is your commander. And most people are living with a coach who constantly sabotages them. Your mind believes what it hears most often. That is why great performers in every field learn to manage internal language. Athletes rehearse confidence. Entrepreneurs rehearse conviction. Leaders rehearse certainty, not because they never feel fear, but because they understand that fear cannot be allowed to run the internal conversation. Leadership begins with self-command, and self-command begins with disciplined language. Now, here is the hard truth. Your internal voice has been trained, just like your self-image, just like your habits, just like your beliefs. It learned patterns. If you grew up hearing criticism, your internal voice may repeat criticism. If you grew up hearing doubt, your internal voice may repeat doubt. If you grew up hearing fear about risk, your internal voice may repeat caution. Those patterns became familiar, and familiarity turned into identity. But identity is not permanent. Internal dialogue can be rewritten. Because your mind believes what it hears most often, now we move into the second stage of transformation, rewriting the internal dialogue. This is where most people misunderstand personal development. They believe affirmations are magic. They believe repeating phrases automatically changes reality. That is not the mechanism. Repetition is powerful only when it is connected to behavior. Words must guide action. Language must instruct discipline. Your internal dialogue must become operational. For example, vague positive statements rarely create change. I'm successful. I'm amazing. I'm unstoppable. Your mind does not believe empty declarations, but it does believe identity statements connected to behavior, statements that instruct action, statements that command standards, statements that shape daily conduct. Listen to the difference. I execute. I improve daily. I finish what I start. I keep my commitments. I handle pressure. I move forward even when it's uncomfortable. These are leadership commands. These are operational identities. They do not depend on mood. They instruct behavior. Your mind believes what it hears most often. When you repeat identity statements consistently, the brain begins adjusting expectations. It begins organizing actions around the identity. Because the brain is constantly asking one question, what kind of person am I? And the answer is shaped by repetition. Every day you must feed the mind instructions, not vague inspiration, clear identity, clear standards, clear direction. That is how leaders speak internally. Now let's talk about repetition, because repetition is the engine of identity. A single thought does not change your life. A repeated thought does. A repeated instruction becomes belief. A repeated belief becomes expectation. A repeated expectation becomes behavior, and behavior shapes reality. That is the chain reaction. Your mind believes what it hears most often. Think of your brain as fertile soil. Every thought is a seed. Most people allow random seeds to fall into that soil. News, criticism, comparison, fear, negativity, doubt. The soil grows whatever it receives most frequently, which means if you want to shape your identity, you must become intentional about the seeds you plant. Plant discipline. Plant courage. Plant clarity. Plant resilience. Plant commitment. Plant leadership. Repetition grows the garden. Your mind believes what it hears most often. Now let's discuss the difference between passive thinking and active thinking. Passive thinking is uncontrolled. Thoughts appear, You react. Your mood shifts, your energy changes, your behavior follows. Active thinking is controlled. You observe the thought. You replace the thought. You direct the narrative. You command the mind. Active thinking is leadership. Passive thinking is surrender. The average person practices passive thinking all day. A challenge appears, the mind whispers, "This is too hard," and the person obeys. A mistake appears, the mind whispers, "You always mess things up," and the person believes it. A risk appears, the mind whispers, "What if it goes wrong?" and the person retreats. But leaders intercept those thoughts. They interrupt the narrative. They replace the instruction. This is difficult, but I handle difficulty. That mistake is feedback. Risk is the entrance to growth. Your mind believes what it hears most often, and when you train it consistently, the internal voice begins supporting your progress instead of sabotaging it. Now let's make this practical. Here are 3 internal commands every builder must repeat daily. Command 1, I execute. Not tomorrow, not when motivation appears. Execution begins now. This statement trains your brain to associate identity with action, not intention, not planning, action. Command 2, I improve daily. Growth becomes the standard. Progress becomes the expectation. Every day must contain learning, practice, or refinement. Stagnation is no longer acceptable. Command 3, I finish what I start. This statement destroys procrastination. It strengthens reliability. It builds trust with yourself. And trust with yourself builds confidence. Your mind believes what it hears most often. When these commands become routine, something powerful happens. Your nervous system begins responding differently to challenge. The internal voice becomes steady, clear, decisive, and the external world begins responding to that clarity. Because people can feel certainty, they can sense leadership. Leadership begins internally. Now we need to address something critical. Negative thoughts will still appear. You are human. Fear will appear. Doubt will appear. Uncertainty will appear. But the goal is not to eliminate those thoughts. The goal is to control which thoughts get repeated. The first thought is automatic. The second thought is intentional. Leaders choose the second thought. When doubt appears, they respond with direction. When fear appears, they respond with instruction. When hesitation appears, they respond with movement. Your mind believes what it hears most often, and if a dominant voice is disciplined, progress becomes inevitable. Now let's connect this concept to self-image. Earlier, we learned that your results never rise above your self-image. Now we see how self-image is reinforced through language, through repetition, through internal leadership. Every command you give yourself shapes the image you carry internally. If the commands are weak, the identity weakens. If the commands are strong, the identity strengthens. That is the mechanism. And once identity strengthens, behavior follows naturally. You begin acting like the person you are becoming, not because someone forced you, because it feels aligned. Your mind believes what it hears most often. Let's talk about another important shift. Stop speaking to yourself like a critic. Start speaking to yourself like a commander. Critics analyze. Commanders direct. Critics dwell on problems. Commanders focus on solutions. Critics complain about difficulty. Commanders move through difficulty. The moment your internal voice shifts from criticism to command, your personal power increases dramatically. Now your thoughts drive action. Now your mind becomes an ally. Now your internal dialogue fuels growth. Your mind believes what it hears most often. Here is a daily exercise to strengthen this skill. Every morning, before the world begins influencing your attention, speak identity into your mind, not emotionally, not dramatically, deliberately. I execute. I improve daily. I finish what I start. I honor my standards. I lead myself. These statements are not motivational speeches. They are instructions. They are psychological training. They align your mind before the day begins. And when the day begins aligned, your actions follow direction. Your mind believes what it hears most often. Now let's end this chapter with a powerful realization. The world will speak to you constantly. Opinions, criticism, judgment, advice, noise. But the voice that matters most will always be the voice inside your own mind. If that voice is disciplined, nothing outside can weaken you. If that voice is chaotic, nothing outside can stabilize you. The internal voice determines the external outcome. Your mind believes what it hears most often. So train it, command it, direct it, lead it, because the leader you become internally determines the results you create externally. You have strengthened your self-image. You have destroyed comparison. You have learned to speak to yourself like a leader. Now it is time to translate identity into behavior, because identity without discipline collapses under pressure, and discipline is the bridge between belief and results. So the next chapter takes us into the foundation of all transformation. Make sure to follow this channel for the 5th chapter. If it's already published, you can find it in the description of this audio. The title of the next chapter is Discipline is the Architect of Identity.